This is a NERV-inspired mass extinction.
Fitting.
Episode 16.
It's very fitting for our special subject today.
Which is what?
End of Evangelion.
That's right, the film, because we've seen all 26 episodes of the show. I think in episode 13, maybe, we covered the last 4.
Yeah, that was it.
Something like that. So now it's time to discuss the movie, and what many people consider to be the true ending to Evangelion, despite the fact that there are multiple endings and multiple, continuities. This is the big one, I feel.
Well, I don't think this one is any different continuity-wise to the one from the TV show.
Well, when I said continuities, I was actually alluding to the existence of the rebuilds.
Right, but you said by multiple, I assumed more than 2.
In the Evangelion franchise, there are multiple, I guess, 2 continuities.
Was a video game not make a third or something?
There was an Evangelion video game for PlayStation 2, but I think it was probably in harmony with the TV show. I haven't played it. I just know that there are a bunch of documents in it that you can read or something. Or maybe even in the booklet, like the insert booklet of the
insert booklets in games used to have tons of background and information because old games couldn't hold,
enough
gajillions amounts of information. Yeah, there was no story to the Metroid game, on the NES, unless you read the booklet, which was 30 pages.
There was no Metroid game on the NES, was there?
The original Metroid.
I thought Super Metroid on the SNES was the first one.
No, Metroid, then Super Metroid. Well, actually, Metroid, then Metroid: Samus Returns for the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, and then Super Metroid for the SNES.
Oh, I didn't know there was one on NES. Man, that's
1986.
Okay. Well, you are the Metroid authority between the two of us.
It is very difficult compared to modern games.
Okay, enough about that. Let's get to End of Evangelion.
Okay.
We're going to try to discuss it as best we can. When I first saw this film, I don't know how many years ago it was. For me, it was like a mind-shattering experience. So
I can see why it would be.
I don't. Even now, we literally Grenchler and I literally just watched it.
Yep.
And I still can't perfectly recall, the order of events. I'm sure I'll be able to do well enough that we can have a discussion about it. But
yeah, we can stumble through it. Okay.
So we did see the ending of the TV series, which is just Instrumentality, 25 and 26. In this one, as you said, it's structured as 25 prime and 26 prime. The End of Evangelion is split up into 2 halves. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Well,
the first half is...
the first half all exists in the real world. I'm using air quotes here because it's all stuff that's happening. It's the invasion of NERV. It's SEAL putting their plan into action. And then 26 is Instrumentality kind of visualized, what's physically happening during it. There's probably a brief, maybe 5 or 10 minute portion that's what's going on almost entirely in Shinji's mind because he's the key to Instrumentality somehow.
Right.
Somehow that rested on his shoulders rather than someone more sane or more stable.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
And then the last portion, and then the last, couple minutes is just the result of what happened after Shinji's decision during Instrumentality.
Right. Let's just jump right in and we can skip around, I guess. We don't have to go in order. I think there's a reason why it had to be Shinji and it couldn't be someone, more stable or more sane. It's because
A01 was Shinji's mom.
Right. Eva 01 it's the key to Instrumentality, and Shinji is the only one who can pilot it.
Right.
So it has to be him. But why was Eva 01 the key to Instrumentality? We know that it becomes, SEAL is very interested in it and very concerned about it because it's, according to them in the TV series, they call it an actualized god or something like that. And it becomes that godlike being after it consumes Toji in Unit 03.
Right.
Is that right?
It ingests an S2 engine.
Is that why it was an actualized god? Because it ate an S2 engine? Yeah, that's right. Because it takes the S2 engine into itself. It was Ritsuko or somebody who said that. But the other Evangelions, the synthesized ones that we see, Seal has been building,
also have them.
They have them, yeah. So why are they not capable?
It's because Unit 01 wasn't created. Unit 01 was created from Lilith.
Well, aren't all Evas created from Lilith?
No. They're
from Adam?
From Adam.
So Unit
01 is from Lilith.
Yeah, this movie, I can't remember who says it, but they actually say it's a clone of Lilith.
Right.
Who knows whether that's a totally accurate translation of what was said in Japanese.
A clone, a copy, or a reproduction, which I suppose are literally synonyms.
Kind of. I mean, a reproduction is definitely not a clone. Like you can reproduce a work of art or
you can recreate a classic car, but it's not the original.
Yeah. So that makes sense. So Unit 01 came from Lilith and the others came from Adam. I didn't ever think about that. Man, Eva's so deep, dude.
It's so dense.
There's
a lot of lore.
There certainly is.
And they slammed it into this episode.
Into this movie.
Monologue after monologue.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But it never feels too slow or too stodgy or too boring.
It never feels like it's just talking at you.
Right. And I think that's mostly because of the first half of the movie where it's cutting between a whole bunch of different locations and scenes. Like it's cutting between Asuka fighting the 9
Evas.
The new Evas, and what's going on with Misato and Shinji. And then it cuts to the bridge, I guess is what you would call it, where the nerdy people,
the command center,
are always like, it's pattern blue, it's an angel.
Oh no, it's red.
Yeah, and it cuts every once in a while down to the basement underneath NERV, Terminal Dogma,
right?
Where you've got Gendo, Rei, and Ritsuko eventually shows up there, planning to destroy everything, and. Probably, but the invasion itself, the perspective of the soldiers, I guess, who are invading NERV on Seal's orders.
Well, they're not invading NERV on Seal's order. Seal manipulates the government to believe that NERV is trying to cause the third impact, so they're going in to try and stop them.
Right. Oh yeah, that's true, because we get that scene with the Prime Minister of Japan, right, on the phone with somebody, probably the head of Seal.
Yeah, who's like half robot?
No, he's just wearing that visor.
No, but
is he more robotic
when he collapses into that pool of LCL? Do you remember there's like a ton of wiring and like a mechanical spine and stuff like that?
I don't remember that. No.
Yeah, there's like a pile of robotics after he disappears.
Huh. Man, you picked up on all kinds of stuff that I didn't get. The only thing I really noticed about him that was mechanical was his visor.
Right.
But I guess it kind of makes sense for his character that he would be maybe, some kind of cyborg or not entirely human. Like he's clinging to life and he wants to gain immortality via instrumentality.
Right.
He wants to live forever in LCL. And it's something that I've read in, one place or another, just trying to figure out what the hell this film is and what it means.
Right.
Is that Seal's plan was not just to become one with everyone else. Like they wanted to be the gods of the new world. They wanted to somehow be in like an elevated position within instrumentality. Although I don't know how that would be possible. Isn't it kind of a level playing field when everyone turns into Tang and their souls are all combined? Did you notice anything about them like trying to achieve godhood?
If there was something, it would have been in those flashing images that we unfortunately can't stare at too long because we have to read.
Yeah.
As well as it's hard to get anything out of 15 or 20 frames per second just flashing at you.
It is. I mean, we're probably processing some of it on some level. So the more times you watch the film, perhaps the more you understand what it means or what hidden images there are in those sequences of like, flashing lights.
Possibly. That the people who've just gone through frame by frame and analyzed each one individually.
I'm sure those people exist.
Yeah. I have no doubt there are people who are fanatical about anything and will do exactly that.
Great.
Like when a trailer comes out for a game that's like 30 seconds long and people make like a 25-minute breakdown video online.
Sure. I remember whenever any Breath of the Wild stuff came out, like the new Zelda, I was all over those little reaction and / analysis videos. They were constructing entire world maps based on just what they saw in trailers.
I'm sure insane. With the amount of things that were going by on screen that people could have figured out like 7 more episodes. Although I had my thought when I saw all of it and just recognizing a few things I did is that I think it was every scene from all the episodes played in reverse order.
You think it was the entire show played in reverse order?
24 and back, but rather than being every frame, it was just every scene.
So 1 frame from every scene or literally every scene? That would be impossible, right?
1 frame from every scene. Yeah, so whenever there was a scene change, that's the next frame.
It wouldn't surprise me if that were the case because of the way that Instrumentality ends. It begins with the drop of water
and it
falling
ends
down
with the drop of water going up.
Right. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did something like that.
Quite good.
All right. So yeah, we know why Shinji why he had the role in the story that he did. I remember you made a comment while we were watching that he was like, you said he was a little bitch. He was being a bitch.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel that way about Shinji. And in this movie especially, I mean, I think in End of Eva more than anywhere else in the TV show, Misato is literally having to drag him around by the arm.
Yep.
And manipulate him. Like she pushes him into the cage that will eventually take him down to the what is it? What do they call that place where the Evas launch?
The
bay or something.
It was like the gate or the cage.
Yes, the cage. That's right.
It. The cage.
She has to push him into, I guess, the elevator. The shaft that'll take him down to the cage.
Right.
And kind of pin him up against it. I guess we can talk about that scene. Well, let's just jump around.
Sure.
So she, he is being quite self-centered, and I mean, he's
like, I want to die. Yeah. I hate everything.
He's
nihilistic.
He's super depressed.
Yeah.
And we knew that about him because this movie picks up right after the events of episode 24, which is the Kaworu episode.
Yeah, where Kaworu gets
where he gets crushed by Unit 01.
Yeah, where Unit 01 loses control via the dummy plug system, which only ever works in it once.
Wait, what? No, that's episode. That's the episode where he crushes Toji.
Oh,
is where the dummy plug takes over.
Right. He kills Kaworu though, by his own choice.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't think Eva 01 just went by itself. I think he eventually came to terms with, I have to do this.
Right, because at that point he knew that Kaworu was an angel.
Yeah.
And someone was probably talking in his ear the whole time. Although all we heard was classical music for like 90 seconds while he contemplated whether or not he should do it. And then he finally did. Yeah, I do think it was his choice. I'm just trying to remember. But so this is all happening after the Kaworu episode. In the Kaworu episode, he was already really depressed. That's something we had talked about in, a previous podcast.
Right, because he was
installment.
He was depressed from Toji.
Rei was dead.
Right.
He did have to kill Toji. That was several episodes prior, but that really put him in a different state after he had to do that, and he was like really resenting his father and hating everything and everybody. So Rei's dead. Misato is in mourning for Kaji.
Because Kaji's dead.
Asuka has fled their house. He doesn't know it, but she is. She stays over at Hikaru's place, the class president, and then later we see her in the bathtub after what I think was a suicide attempt.
What we've concluded to appear to be.
Yeah. So he's just feeling like a piece of shit, and
everyone's kind of like abandoned him at this point, and he's all on his own.
Yeah, he feels totally alone. But it's true. Yes, all of that being said, it's true that in End of Eva, he's way more like unhinged almost than he has been at any point previously. There is a lot of Shinji screams in this movie.
Yeah.
There were some good ones in the TV show, especially the episode 3, maybe. I think it's 3. It might even be 2. The one where Toji and Kensuke get into the entry plug with him.
Right. Isn't that 4?
Is it 4?
Yeah, because Eva attacks her every other episode. And so there was an Eva attack in 2.
No, they're not every other episode. There's a long string in the middle where there's a new Eva every week.
Or Angel. A new Eva every week.
Right.
Oh, man.
Oh, that'd be crazy. What was I talking about? Damn it, this is going to happen so many times during this episode. I was talking about Shinji screams for some reason.
Right.
There's a good one in whatever episode that is, where they finally see what it's like for him to pilot the Eva, like the toll that it takes on him, and he's like screaming his brains out. But in this movie, yeah, more depressed, more like psychotic,
unhinged.
Yeah,
be a good way to say it.
I just said that like a minute ago, actually.
Oh, well, I probably got it from you then.
But he's totally crazy. And I think that the series as a whole and this movie too, as kind of the true ending, quote unquote, of the series, does a good job of bringing Shinji along,
bringing him from kind of functioning person to.
I always feel sorry for him. I never think of him as being a bitch.
I don't think I ever do feel sorry for him, really.
Never?
I mean, everybody goes through, trauma at some points in their lives.
His whole life is one big traumatic event.
Well, the last, however long Eva compacts itself into time-wise, a couple months maybe? Probably the whole show takes place in a few months.
I don't know. I couldn't say.
It's less than a school year because he's with the same class.
That's not necessarily. I mean, maybe their class is just a handful of people. Remember that their class is just an excuse to have a whole bunch of potential Eva pilots in one place.
Right.
So, I don't know. Maybe they graduate. We never see a graduation ceremony or anything, though, and there's never any talk of it. So, yeah, probably less than a year.
That's my guess. And but before that, Shinji's life was, he lived with
someone who he called his teacher.
Right.
We still don't know who that is or was.
Right.
It was just a caretaker of some kind. So his mom died when he was young. He was neglected by his father for like all of his life, probably.
And Gendo kind of talks about that as well.
Yeah, and End of Eva. Mm-hmm. He was afraid to when he sees EoE again, because that's when instrumentality happens and everyone turns into LCL or whatever it is they turn into.
Yeah, LCL.
They all see their loved ones. You've probably figured that out, right? Because the guy with the glasses sees Ritsuko, and there's an allusion to him being in love with her during the TV series.
Yeah,
when they're cooperating to figure out the truth behind NERV.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of obvious.
Yeah. So he sees Ritsuko, and the girl sees. He sees Misato. The girl sees Ritsuko, the little brown-haired girl who couldn't shoot the gun, who was too afraid to use the gun. She sees Ritsuko, so she was in love with her. I don't remember I don't think the brown-haired dude with the part and the hair, the semi-long hair, I don't think he saw anybody.
No.
But everybody sees their loved ones before they die. So, yes, Gendo saw EoE, and EoE speculates that he was afraid of Shinji.
He was afraid of driving Shinji further away by being in his life and giving Shinji more time to resent him.
Yeah,
because
like that.
Almost everything that happens during Eva causes Shinji to resent his dad more. Except for the one time that he's like, "Good job, son. Pat on the back. Now get in the robot."
Yeah.
So he was almost right.
What do you mean? Oh, Gendo was right?
Yeah. That if he had stayed in Shinji's life, he could have resented him even more and may not have even ever had the ability to have him be the pilot.
I actually think that this movie is making the case that Gendo is wrong. Because the whole deal with instrumentality at the end and Shinji's pivotal position in it, where he decides the fate of the world, he accepts that even though life is painful when people are separate from one another and are fearful of one another and don't understand each other,
it's better than
the alternative of not being yourself, not like having a self.
With no sadness, there can be no happiness.
Yes, sure. Space Dandy reference.
Yep.
From the previous episode of the podcast.
Which is almost like Instrumentality.
Oh, you mean episode 21 of
yeah.
Dandy? No, that's not like Instrumentality. It's not everyone's soul, everyone on Earth, their souls merging into one.
No, but it asks the same questions.
Oh, wait. She does we can talk about this after. This is totally off topic.
Yeah.
But you're actually, that's interesting. I just thought of like a clear parallel between that episode of Dandy and Instrumentality. But yeah, I don't think they're really the same. So no, I think the movie's making the case that Shinji's decision is the correct one. Like it's better to struggle through depression and
it's better
pain and isolation, loneliness,
for the reward that can be on the other side.
Right. That's what Yui says. As long as you're alive, anywhere can be heaven. So Gendo assumed that if he involved himself in his son's life, it would cause his son nothing but pain. But I think the movie's making the argument that Gendo's wrong and that he should have tried. He should have tried to be a better father.
Because if you don't try, you can't succeed, even if you fail.
Yeah, if you don't try, then
there is no try.
You have to make the attempt. That's what the show is saying.
Yeah.
And I mean, Gendo is literally rejected in this movie. His plan is to somehow, because he's got A.N.I.M.E on his hand, right?
Right.
And he puts it into Rei and is somehow trying to use her as a catalyst to see Yui again. And like this part of my understanding of that scene is only from other stuff that I've read. But he's not trying to just see Yui for a brief moment. He's literally trying to bring her back to life and be with her permanently in Instrumentality. He's not trying to have all the souls, in one big pool of nothingness.
Yeah, he wants them to be in a separate pool.
Yeah, kind of. He wants to be distinct. He really wants to be united with Yui again in a more tangible way. So that's his goal, from what I understand, when he is trying to activate Rei somehow by sticking his hand into her boob and then moving it down towards her, her center. But she like literally rejects him and rips off his hand.
Yeah, nope.
Yeah, and then she says, "Ikari is calling me." I mean, they're both Ikari, but she's talking about Shinji.
She's talking about Shinji, yeah.
So that's when what did you make? Sorry, go ahead.
During Shinji's, everyone before their death scene sees their loved one, and Rei shows up for him. Although I think that has nothing to do with it.
Wait, what do you mean?
You said everybody before they died, their loved one showed up in front of them.
Yeah, we saw that happen with all the people on the bridge.
Right, but for Shinji, Rei showed up, kind of. Although to be fair,
wasn't Shinji already in the robot at that point?
Yeah.
So Rei didn't show up for him.
No, I'm trying to think of like when all the scenes where like Shinji's floating or everyone's seeing someone else. It's just Shinji and Rei. But then I'm thinking earlier than that, when he's still going through like his ego is supposed to be broken in order for Instrumentality to happen. They're supposed to break the ego of the pilot.
Right. And that would, if his ego had been broken, Instrumentality would have been permanent.
And it dissipated to like the thinnest sliver and then came back.
I don't remember how that was visualized in the film.
I don't think it really is. It's
when you said
all those flashing scenes, then you see Asuka and Shinji and they're that they're arguing and fighting where Shinji's
the coffee scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
but when you said that whole thing about his ego being dissipated and you made like a pinching motion with your fingers.
Yeah, I'm just saying like his ego essentially in the show got down to like the tiniest bit, and then he managed to hang on.
Right.
And reverse instrumentality essentially.
Yeah. Man. What was the scene? What was the very last scene or the last bit of dialogue before he flips the switch and decides to reject the combination of souls? I can't remember.
Rei is just he's essentially explaining what we were talking about, how if it's like I'd rather suffer than have...
No, before he talks to Rei, and then Rei and Kaoru. Before that.
When he's flashing through a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, what's at the very end of that?
Man, I don't remember.
I can't either.
Because there's so many images flat. I'm pretty sure it's the coffee scene plays back, but in like rough sketches.
Yeah, there are a lot of sketches. And a lot of coloring jobs, and a lot of live action shots, and some scripts in the background, just text.
I think the last thing that's shown are like those little drawings that look like a kid drew them, with Shinji talking over top of them.
No, that's not the last thing, is it? Should we pause it and look at it?
Sure. We'll be back after.
What button do I press?
You can just leave it right. And we're back.
We took a look at the movie, and the very last thing that happens before Shinji makes his decision, or the scene begins that appears to signal his decision, is he's having a conversation with Rei about, this is before the two of them are actually occupying the same space and they're talking to one another. He's talking about he's questioning what reality is and what a dream is, what the difference between the two things is. And you see the shots of the shot of the movie theater. It's totally
empty,
right? And before it had been full.
It started empty, then it was full, then it was empty again.
Right. So I think you speculated after we saw the movie that it was like a pre-screening of the film, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think that's reasonable. That's because that's like very metatextual to include a shot of the audience watching your film in the film. It seems like something that Eva would probably do. But the interest, and the very final shot is the script.
The
right?
script just flashes.
Probably, I can't read Japanese, but it's probably the script for the movie. Wouldn't you say?
It could be, or it could be the script for the rebuild.
That would be insane.
Next level foresight.
That would be 10 years, a 10-year time skip, I guess.
Yeah.
10-year foreshadowing. That scene. So he dude, I don't know. We figured out what the scene is, but I can't remember the exact nature of his discussion with Rei about what a reality is versus what a dream is. Reality, I think she says, is the end of a dream. So it's when you wake up and accept that
you're alive.
Yeah, well, you accept who you are, and you accept that the world is as it is,
right?
And you don't try to change it or escape from it. And that's the whole thing about this movie. A lot of people feel as though Evangelion, especially the last half of it, and the movie are like a rejection of escapism. Because Shinji is always thinking to himself, or people are always telling him, I mustn't run away, or don't run away.
Right.
And Misato again does it in this movie. She says, it's time for you to decide whether you're going to run away or not. And we literally see live action shots of people who I guess we're meant to think are Eva obsessives. Maybe the kind of people who would even record a podcast about it.
Possibly.
And we see shots of people walking through the street, and some of them are cosplaying as Evangelion characters.
The three people that are standing there? There's one shot of three girls where the crowd's walking around them. I think those are three of the voice actors.
Really? You think they're the...
I don't think those were three random people.
You think they're the seiyuu for like Rei, Asuka, and Misato?
I think so.
Huh. I didn't. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that scene again. I'm probably just gonna have to watch this movie 10 more times to even start to understand it.
So we'll pause the podcast now, watch it 10 more times,
not doing that,
and come back.
I don't remember exactly the scene that you're talking about with the 3 women, but I do remember someone cosplaying as Rei, and it caught my eye, obviously, because Rei has blue hair and the woman was wearing a blue wig. So I think a lot of people think that the point that Anno is making, or the axe that he's grinding, is kind of an anti-otaku message. Like, don't escape into anime. Live in the real world. Live your life as a real person and contribute something.
So he made an anime to tell people to stop living their lives in anime.
Well, that's the thing about
him. And by a product, he created one of the most obsessive fan bases known to man.
Yeah.
Good job, Anno.
The thing about Anno is that he's like the ultimate otaku, right? He's one of the big boys who started Gainax, who were the ultimate otaku group. You know, they did the animations for Daikon 3 and 4, and they were kind of seen as like the punks of the industry who wormed their way in based on
memes.
Well, like passion and talent. And they found themselves creating series like this one and like Nadia's Secret of Blue Water, which was the show that was before this one. Anno's previous work, which really, kind of blew his name up a little bit. So he's like the ultimate otaku, but he also rejects that idea, I guess,
of it being just your entire life.
Yeah. A lot of that's a reading of the film that a lot of people have. That's why people think that he included those live action shots directly before Shinji decides, no, it's better. Life is better the way it was, when people are distinct from one another and can have relationships with one another in real ways.
And so he shows the other world as being, or he shows our world, as being the dream, the LCL, the culmination of everyone together.
I see what you're trying to say, but I don't.
He inverted it. Essentially, it's just an inversion of what people do in our world, where they escape into animation,
right?
And so that would be
in
them.
Eva, the animated segments are what's real, right? Because Shinji is a real character in the real world. Yeah.
And our world is the escape.
Right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I mostly agree, but I also, this is not like a Full Metal Alchemist 2003 situation where the real world, as in our world, actually exists. I don't think that's what's going on. So the real world as it's portrayed in the film with the movie theater and the cosplayers,
I think it was just meant to be a parallel.
Yeah, it's supposed to be metaphorical. All the people in the movie theaters, all the people walking through the streets in costumes, they are all supposed to represent people who are kind of living their lives as though they're souls and instrumentality. They don't want to engage in a real way. They're looking for a vehicle to distract them.
And I think that's one of the reasons they showed that big crowd shot where everyone's walking. Because if you see a lot of large crowd shots in Japan, or honestly a lot of cultures, everyone keeps to themselves, even though they're surrounded by people at all times.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah, but I mean, if people are walking down the street in Japan or in New York City or Paris or what have you, they've got somewhere they want to go. They can't just stop in the middle of the street and say hey to everybody who walks by.
I mean, yeah, but come on, I'm trying to go for symbolism here. Don't break it open with reality.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it is very distinct, that first shot of people walking, because most of the live action scenes up until that point are just shots of the city.
Right.
And you made a comment about the way they were framed, I guess, which was what?
They looked like a lot of the train shots in Eva when he's moving across one of the trams that's overlooking New Tokyo 3. Because New Tokyo 3 was based on how Tokyo looked then in 95. The skyline is almost identical. You can see the buildings that have the lines that connect to the other ones, and obviously the city doesn't retract into the ground. Give us another -3 years by his timetable, and we'll have the technology.
No, doesn't this show take... No, this show takes place in 2015.
-3, 2018.
Oh, I see. -3, right. Because it is current year.
It is insert year.
Present day, present time. Yeah, I didn't notice... It seems to me that you picked up on a lot of visual stuff that I didn't in this movie. I didn't see that the shots paralleled the pictures of the train going by. I think that might be the first live action shot you see is of a train going by.
Yeah.
And then there's shots of the city, with the sun coming up and hitting everything and making it look real nice.
And some of the streets as well.
Right, which are mostly empty until you do see that first rather striking shot of like a bustling crowd.
Right.
Because before that it was
almost
personal.
all of the shots of streets in Eva were empty. Because half the time there was an angel attacking and everyone had to run away.
Yeah, but humanity was also on its last legs, kind of, after what happened in the second impact.
Which caused on half of its legs.
Were there really still 3 billion people on Earth?
I said half of them died.
Yeah, but that was in the immediate aftermath of the second impact, right?
No, that was as a result of everything that happened.
Yeah. Because it caused, it made the ice caps melt, sea levels rose. It caused a whole bunch of
environmental changes.
Yeah. Well, monsoons and terrible storms and stuff. Earthquakes.
Right.
And then war broke out. I think maybe in the first or second episode you learn about that. Probably the second, because that's when Shinji goes to school for the first time, maybe.
I don't remember that.
Oh, there's a nuclear war breaks out between two nations.
Oh.
In the wake of the second impact. Oh, one thing we learned from this movie is that the second impact was caused on purpose.
Yes.
Misato explains that to Shinji, as she also explains a little bit about how we all came from Lilith and the angels came from Adam. Because you see her still doing research based on the data that Kaji left her before his death.
Yeah.
You see a few scenes of her doing kind of like a Ritsuko thing where she's cooped up somewhere
with a plugged keyboard into something.
Yeah.
Good old pay to cables.
Does she mention the black moon? Because the movie it shows us the black moon.
Right.
So
the black moon being the seed of Lilith, which is what the geofront actually is. It's not an underground. It's not it's an underground explosion. It's like an egg, think human egg essentially.
Right, but it came from space.
Right, which is what we all came from.
Right. Yeah.
And there were two.
Well, if Lilith is Lilith the black egg?
I guess so.
The black moon.
Right. Then the first
Adams
one
is the white moon.
The white moon. That was the second impact. Was the rays and destruction of that one?
No, I think the white moon is literally the moon.
I think it still may be metaphorical because remember the two quote unquote the two geofronts, not quote unquote, are identical. And they say that scans of the second impact are the same as scans of the geofront.
Right.
And if we know that NERV HQ is in the Black Moon, and the other
they're not in the Black Moon. Isn't it revealed after Instrumentality has either begun or is close at hand, and the world N2 mines have gone off all over the place, and people's souls are getting... I don't know, man. You eventually see a shot of literally the Black Moon buried in the earth.
Right.
I think but that was underneath everything.
I think NERV is built in it because NERV is
built inside the Black Moon. There's no way.
Or very close to it.
There's no way. That doesn't make any sense.
NERV has to be
they couldn't have been within the Black Moon. Right?
Could they not have?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
Wasn't the... Oh, shoot.
Because they make a point to mention that all of their protective layers are being blown away.
Yeah.
And that N2, or that basically a super nuke, essentially, goes off on top of it and reveals it.
Yeah, but think about it. If the N2 mine blew the Black Moon wide open, why would it still be kind of intact the way that it was?
It didn't blow it open.
Shot?
It just basically blew everything out away from it. Because he mentioned like it's like all these. This is just a physical shockwave. If we do this, we'll be fine.
Yeah, Fuyutsuki says that. All right, I'm getting confused, man.
I'm pretty sure NERV is inside that.
I don't think that's right. I think the cavern that is the Geofront was just created by it.
So then, is it even further down? Is it Central Dogma? Is it?
I don't know. I don't know, man. We got to get away from this topic because I'm getting totally lost.
I'm starting to lose myself, honestly.
All right, moving on.
Yeah,
let's just go to in the name of finding another topic of discussion quickly. Let's go to the very beginning of the film.
Right. Yeah.
How did you how did you react to that?
Why? My honest question was why? Like, what was the point of including that?
Yeah. I mean, go ahead and tell me try to think of something.
Huh?
Why do you think they did it?
It was
why was it included in the movie? Or why did Shinji do what he did?
Right.
Was that the very first scene? It wasn't, was it?
Very first.
Was him in the hospital room with Asuka?
Yes. That was the first scene.
No, there's no way that's true, right?
It is. Don't
we see the waves coming up on the shore first or something? Aren't we? Isn't there an exterior shot?
Okay, maybe there's waves coming up on the shore and then they're in the hospital.
No. It's him. I think he's standing in front of the lake.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Where Kaworu like communicated with the seal monoliths.
Right.
That's what we saw first. And then I think we went to the hospital. And then we cut into Asuka's room.
Right.
I think that was the order of events. Yeah, and he tries to get her to wake up because A.N.I.M.E, who that's Rei's,
full
surname.
Name.
Well, it's her surname. And
right.
People, until you're on friendly terms with somebody, you call people by their
last name.
Yeah, in Japan. So he's like A.N.I.M.E's gone. Misato's gone.
Kawaru's gone.
Yeah, maybe it was just A.N.I.M.E's gone, Kawaru's gone. Maybe that's what he said. But he just wants Asuka to, wake up and make fun of him like she always does.
Yeah, so that to have everything go back to normal.
Yeah. He just doesn't want to be by himself because he feels totally alone. So
the natural reaction, obviously.
Yeah, so he's like shaking her on her shoulder and then he turns her over and her gown,
comes undone. Right.
And so he sees her breasts and then he, proceeds to masturbate.
Fat material.
Yeah. So why did he do it and why is it in the movie? Now that we've gone over exactly what happened.
I'd have to think about that to give you an answer because like it's referenced later.
Yeah, Asuka says in Instrumentality, I know about all your jerk off fantasies.
Right.
And the show even, puts that image of from above, the bird's eye view of her in the hospital bed and him like standing over her.
Right.
Yeah.
I still don't know why. I mean, maybe it was to prove that Shinji liked her or that she was best grill or I honestly can't think of why. Like
I actually have
I think it's almost entirely pointless.
I have my theory. But I'm actually not going to say. I want to leave that as a mystery. Not that my interpretation, which is actually the common interpretation, is correct, or that I have authority.
Why wouldn't you just say it? Because I could just Google it.
Well, yeah, if you want to, then Google it. But I think it should be left like a mystery for now, at least. So he starts the movie by masturbating over her comatose body, which is like I have a little bit of trouble just bringing myself to say that because it's particularly gross because she is unconscious,
right?
And it's not only that she's unconscious, she is in a terribly she is totally deranged. She tried to kill herself,
Yeah, she wasn't in a great place.
She's like crippled by the loss of her mother and what she sees as the betrayal of her father.
Right.
She's like regressed to like a childlike mental state. She can't pilot the Eva. Do you remember in episode 24 or maybe 23? They launch her up to fight one of the angels, but they have to bring her back down immediately.
Her sync rate is literally 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to represent her mental instability.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I got that.
He's masturbating over the unconscious body of a mentally, insane person.
Does he know she's like mentally insane? I don't think he does.
Maybe not.
I think that he might just think that she was like hurt or something like that.
I don't know. I don't know whether in the episode where she gets deployed but then brought right back right away. That's the episode where Rei dies. I think that's 23.
Right. So
But Shinji also fights in that episode. Because remember he that's the one with the angel that like infects people and you see all the veins.
Right.
So he saw all those little rays like on his hand bubbling up because Rei absorbed that angel, I guess.
Right, and then just blew up.
Yeah. So he must have known that Asuka wasn't in the best, like in tip top emotional shape. If she gets sent up and then brought back down immediately.
He might not have just, I don't know, maybe I'm making excuses for him.
Yeah. You're white knighting the guy.
Of course I am. As is my duty as a white male.
So it's disgusting. I mean, so I have a hard time saying what it is that he did. But it kind of bookends the movie, right? It begins with him using Asuka as like as an object to get himself off.
Right.
And then at the end, he's trying to kill her. Is that what he's trying to do when he's strangling her? But she shows him compassion despite her knowledge of what he did to her. Like in Instrumentality, it's not just Shinji who has a point of view and who sees
Everyone sees everything.
Yeah,
because everything's shared.
Yeah, everyone's together. So she knows. That's how she knew. And when she woke up, she probably knew that as well because the final words of the movie are how disgusting.
See, that's because we were gonna talk about that. Like that was disgusting, and that's not what my mind had gone to. My mind thought like maybe she just thought the experience of being in like that LCL pool was just gross. Because her initial reaction to it was like, this is gross as well.
What do you mean? Her initial reaction to what?
Being like submerged in LCL.
Oh, you mean early on when we first saw her? When was this?
So like...
Well, 9 is her introduction, I think.
Somewhere around there.
Or 7 or 8. Anyway, no, why? Like, she's already an experienced Eva pilot by the time we meet her.
Yeah.
So why would she have had... What reaction are you remembering to LCL where she said it
I just feel like her reaction to like her consciousness being fused with a bunch of other people and being like this sea of floating gel would be like, that was disgusting.
Oh, you think that's what she meant when she said Kimochi Wari?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so. I think she was talking about Shinji.
Then why does her initial reaction, instead of like punching him or slapping him or shoving him off, is gently caressing his face? Because
she was in Instrumentality with him and she knows that he's like totally unstable and fragile. And that what he needs somebody. Remember all the train car scenes where it's her and Rei and Shinji? And she's talking about, if I can't have all of you. This movie, I think, puts it forward that she loves Shinji. Even though she's been obsessed with Kaji for like the whole series.
Right.
She says to Shinji, if I can't have all of you,
then I don't want any of you.
Right. And she, I don't remember if it's repeated in End of Eva, but somewhere near the end of the TV series, she like yells at Shinji, you won't even hold me. Like, you won't help me. You won't even hold me. So all the times that she's said to him, ew, you're gross, get away from me, what she's been wanting is for him to embrace her.
Reverse psychology of the highest degree.
Well, it's not her who was practicing psychology there. she can't be honest.
Right. Well, a lot of people can't. A lot of people struggle with
being honest.
Right.
Yeah, openness. What were we talking about? Yeah, the way that the movie opens with Shinji and Asuka
and ends with Shinji and Asuka.
I think the reason that she's compassionate to him is because she understands
like
that's
very,
what he needs.
And they're also very similar.
Yeah.
They both need someone else.
Yeah. Everybody does.
Right.
But them especially, I guess. It's very cryptic. Like there's no textbook answer to these questions. It is like the movie opening with its ostensible hero masturbating over the body of an unconscious girl, and then ending with him trying to strangle and kill her,
possibly.
Yeah. And her, like,
I think
at once saying that he's disgusting and also pitying him and showing him
compassion care. Yeah.
It's just odd.
I think Shinji at the end thought she was dead because she was completely lifeless. She wasn't blinking. She didn't move. She wasn't breathing.
How do you know she wasn't breathing?
Like, well, you're breathing, your chest rises and falls.
Yeah, but it's also animation, and that care is not always taken to show everyone's breathing. Sometimes people are just still images with flapping mouths for a while.
That's true. But
and why if you were trying to confirm someone's, aliveness, why would you strangle them?
He had done it before in at the start or while his mental state was being broken by the 9 angels trying to reverse his AT field.
What do you mean? He had done what before?
He in his like little mind dream.
Wasn't that already Instrumentality when that was happening?
I'm not sure if that was Instrumentality or if that was when they were still trying to break his will.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure either.
It's not entirely clear.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. That's
because he, she's trying to get Asuka to, love me.
Well, no, in that scene he is trying to like comfort her. She's sitting at the table and he walks over to her and says, I'll help you.
And she rejects him over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I think that's how it went.
Pretty sure.
I think he was like offering to come to her aid.
I remember it differently.
There have definitely been scenes where he says over and over stuff like, love me, want me, don't kill me,
right?
All that. But I think he only starts saying that stuff after he flips the table, and she's pushed him over and the coffee pot shatters,
and then he kills her.
Well, he tries to.
Well, it works in the dream, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't work, does it? He doesn't kill her.
I think he does. Or does he stop at the last second?
Dude, I don't remember. Shit.
And we'll be back.
Anyway, the reason that I think that happens during Instrumentality is because it seems to me that conversation is both of their souls like interacting in Instrumentality. It seems to me that both, rather than like, it does remind me a little bit of an encounter that the two had previously in the TV series. They go back to the whole, in episode, I think 15, she's like, you want to try kissing?
Right.
So that was kind of replayed. And then they have another conversation similar to that one in a later episode. That's where she says, you won't even hold me. I might be wrong about that. But anyway, in this scene, in End of Eva, the coffee pot scene, I guess, it seems to me that they're both acting pretty willfully. Like it's not a mere reenactment of something that's happened before. So I think that's my justification, or that's my basis for saying that it was happening during Instrumentality. Although it would be easy to figure out the objective, like, truth of the matter.
Then would that symbolize that Shinji's will is stronger than hers?
I don't know. What, that he starts like strangling her?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, generally, someone killing someone else is like by sheer force of will, I am stronger.
Why is it that you think he kills her?
Because generally speaking, when you...
Yeah, but we don't see like the act completed. We don't hear like a snapping sound, or it doesn't like the screen doesn't go red or anything like that. At least not as far as I
just think
remember.
it symbolizes that he was trying to.
Sure.
Right.
Of course he was trying. He was literally strangling her.
And maybe he was just I don't know. Like that whole section is, there's so much happens, especially with all like the flashing images and everything. It's hard to hold on to this series of events.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's just everywhere.
I wonder if that was intentional. If all the flashing images were
to disorient you.
Yeah. I mean, I have to imagine that on some level that was the point.
Well, it would be disorienting. Being merged with everyone else.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess we're meant to experience the same sensation. Maybe that's how you would be. That's how your consciousness, as part of the Sea of LCL, would be seeing everything.
Right. Or maybe it's possible Asuka's into that kind of stuff.
Who knows, man?
Don't know.
That's not a great joke to make after the treatment that she gets in this movie. But she was, for a minute there, it seems as though she's going to be the hero of the film.
Right.
Because she's
taking out all the Evas.
Right. Like when they realize that NERV is going to be invaded, they launch Asuka in Unit 02 and they put her down at the bottom of that lake.
Right, in order to hide her. It's like she'll be safer there than...
Right, the Eva is the safest place in the world inside an Evangelion unit. Oh yeah, and remember in episode 25, I think, we get those shots of Misato dead in a hallway, and Ritsuko dead floating in a pool of LCL, and Shinji
Asuka's in her Eva at the bottom of a lake.
Right.
Yep.
So it was like the idea for this movie, I guess, the way it would play out and how people would where people would be located or how they would die. They put it in 25. So I guess that's proof,
It's the same thing.
Yeah, the same events are taking place. So she does go down to the bottom of the lake, but then she contacts the soul of her mother within the Evangelion. And somehow that like kind of cures her insanity and she's able to fight. And it's it's a very triumphant moment for her.
And then it turns out it's all for nothing.
Yes.
Because the Evas were playing dead in order just to get her to shut off. And for the Lance to return.
Yeah. But no,
those were manufactured lances, not the real one.
I think all the Evas had a fake Lance of Longinus, because you see her get hit with the first one through her eye, right?
Right.
Through her head.
Which is why she has a patch over her eye.
Right. And she starts like screaming, and
blood just like pouring out of her face.
Yeah. That confused me a bit, because I thought that when you were piloting an Eva, like if your arm got ripped off, if the Eva's arm got ripped off,
you'd feel it, but it wouldn't happen.
Right. So why was there blood pouring from her eye?
And you also saw her arm get torn in half.
Is it because she like went into berserk mode? Do you remember the guy? I don't remember his name. One of the bridge dudes with the glasses who loves Misato.
Right.
He says something about her Eva going berserk.
Right.
So maybe like when you sync all the way with your Eva, like you exceed 100% sync ratio or something, what happens to the Eva happens to you. It's my guess.
I think that stuff happened though before the sync rate hit, or before it went berserk.
No, she went berserk in the middle of the fight with those Evangelions.
No, she went berserk after they had torn it to shreds, and it was just like organs left, and it could.
That's when she went berserk?
Yep, and then it like struggled for its hand to go up, and then something went through her hand, and you saw Asuka's arm just split in half in the cockpit.
Yeah, that's when all the other lances start. She's impaled, like her head's impaled on the one lance, and then the reason you know that all the Evas have lances is because all the other ones start raining down from above.
Right.
Because they're all flying. They all put out their wings. Then they come down and like eat it like crows. Ugh, it's just brutal. The mangled, like half human lumps of flesh and like eyeballs and
yeah, it's pretty gruesome.
It's so gross. So yeah, it seems like she's going to be the hero and like she's going to get her moment of redemption because she finds her mother again.
And she finds Dewey.
Oh God.
I'm sorry.
You'd better be. That's the worst thing ever. All right.
The worst thing ever?
No.
Pretty strong words there.
I'm not really about post 2017 memes. I think I've had enough for one lifetime.
Yeah, they're not great so far.
Yeah, and they're not even memes. To be quite honest with you, family, they're not really memes. They're just Facebook jokes.
Do I hear a hint of Rei?
I want to cut this part out. That's gonna be up to you, but yeah, Asuka, it is all for nothing, like you said. She just gets completely BTFO by the other Evas.
Right. Because they just wake back up.
But does she die? Or does she like cling to life long enough for her soul to join the others? That's a question. Like everyone whose died. Wait, Shinji sees Misato and Kaji having sex in what's it called? Instrumentality.
Right.
It's one of the first things he sees. So that means Misato, her soul was part of Instrumentality, right? For him to see that.
Yeah.
So even though she had died, she was still part of it. Does that mean that everyone who has ever lived, their soul was part of Instrumentality? Do people's souls continue to, do they stay, like earthbound or whatever? Or was it just the fact that her death was recent? Her soul hadn't departed yet.
Or her body's still there. So her body could still dissolve.
Right, but it isn't people's bodies that are making all those green crosses in Instrumentality. It's their souls. Or their hearts, more accurately, right? Because the heart is what the AT field is.
Also, we're not people, we're angels.
No.
Humanity is the 18th angel.
Yeah. But not really. I mean, I guess. The movie says that. But we come from Lilith and the angels come from Adam. So we're not angels in the same... We're cousins to the angels. If Adam and Lilith are siblings. That would make us cousins.
I guess.
Kissing cousins. Because...
Deep South.
I mean, we would be, right? Because Rei is... Is she... What? Okay, let's talk about what Rei is.
What is
Rei
Rei?
A.N.I.M.E? What is she?
She's part of Lilith.
She's part of Lilith? I mean, we know that she merges with Lilith at the end. That's how all of Instrumentality happens.
Right.
Kind of.
I think she's literally part of Lilith. Which is why Lilith, like when she rejoins with Lilith, it fixes itself. It's complete again. Like it was missing a piece of it.
Right.
So I think she was like a physical embodiment of part of Lilith.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I guess she's Lilith. But how about all the other weird stuff about Rei? For example, in episode 1, when she seems to appear to Shinji, when he's trying to call Misato, on the payphone.
Right, and she shows up.
Yeah, for just a split second.
She shows up a lot of places.
She does,
this episode, in these two episodes as well.
This film, which is 2 episodes.
Well, it literally says episode 25 and 26 in the film.
That's true. She does appear to a lot of people in a lot of different places.
I think it's almost we are almost meant to infer that she's essentially like a god figure. And if...
What, you mean that Lilith is like a god?
Lilith is like the god figure to all of mankind. And so Rei being part of Lilith, she's like part of everyone because everyone descended from her.
Okay. So maybe the fact that everyone is descended from Lilith means that everyone has some knowledge of Lilith. Like in Christianity, there's an idea that everyone is aware of God, like his law is written into people's consciousness.
Right. Written on their hearts.
Yeah. And so yeah, okay. So that means that everyone's aware of of who Lilith is somewhere in like the recesses of their mind,
right?
That she could appear to them. Yeah, I guess it makes about as much sense as any other explanation that's out there.
That's what I got.
That makes sense to me.
I think so.
But they fuse, right? And then as Lilith is rising from terminal dogma,
it forms into Rei.
Yeah, takes
on the shape.
Well, I think the reason that Lilith takes on that form is because at that point Shinji is experiencing instrumentality, and it's his consciousness that's at the center of it because he's in Unit 01. So Lilith would take, assuming that we're seeing everything kind of through his eyes, we would see Lilith as Rei.
But it's also shown that physically she took on the form of Rei at the end. Because Rei's like massive disembodied head is only...
Oh, yeah. Well, half of it after the other half splits apart.
Right.
It's a crazy ending. I feel like we were just about to talk about something, or maybe I was there for a second. But we can just jump straight to the ending.
Rei.
We don't have to talk about the strangling and Asuka and like the reading of why that is the way it is, because that's a little bit confounding.
Just as messed up a relationship as anyone else on Earth, so
it's way more messed up than that.
You'd be surprised.
No, I wouldn't. Not after seeing this film. I'm pretty sure I'm prepared.
I've seen it all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm prepared for any other life experience I'll ever have. Now that I've watched the world end and reform. At the end, they're back on Earth. For a second, I thought that a new world or a new universe had been created, but we went back and watched a little bit, and you pointed out that EoE says humans can only live on Earth,
right?
But people's souls can live forever in Eva's. So the Eva 01, which is still out in space, EoE's soul is still there, living eternally. Oh, it just occurred to me that's why Unit 01 is so important to Gendo. He wanted to live in Unit 01 with EoE forever. Oh, duh. Okay. How would he achieve that though? By joining with A.N.I.M.E and putting his hand into Rei. How would that let him merge with Unit 01?
When maybe if he was
okay, let's move on. So we had a disagreement about the ending. It is shown that everyone's souls, you know that everyone's souls come up and it appears like it's LCL. It looks like blood, but it's LCL that contains everyone's souls that rises up from the earth when those green crosses start showing up.
Right.
And they join with Shinji in that little sphere, that red sphere, and Eva 01 is in the middle of it.
Right.
Everyone's souls are in there. And then when he rejects instrumentality, they all that liquid falls back to Earth.
Right.
So that's why the sea is red. I guess it's
blood.
Yeah, it's blood. No, it's LCL, right?
Well, no, because you can see from the shots of Earth that Earth is covered with like an LCL color. It's orange.
Right. So the sea is made up of LCL.
Right. But what falls back down to Earth is red, not orange. It's blood.
I mean, I know that LCL is orange, but it takes on other tints and hues based on its environment.
I'm pretty sure they're two different things.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a bunch of red liquid.
Right.
So
red-ish.
The disagreement that we had was you think that everyone else returned to Earth, like everyone is still alive.
Yes.
I don't think so, man. We don't see anyone else.
So you think that Shinji only pulled Asuka out of the whole thing and everyone else is dead?
I think Shinji pulled himself out. I don't think that I think in rejecting instrumentality, he pulled his own consciousness.
And then everyone had to... I think it mentions at some point that people have to make that choice. And if they make the choice to reject that, then they become reformed. But if you don't make that choice, you're gone.
Right.
You're gone forever at this point.
So Asuka, I guess...
made the choice.
Right. Maybe that's why she's able to be compassionate to Shinji at the end. I mean, it kind of makes sense, actually, that she would be, because when she comes into contact with the soul of her mom and her Eva, she seems to be, like, it seems like she has all the answers. She understands what an AT field is and how to use it to like decimate all the other Evangelions. I mean, she 1v9s a bunch of probably technologically superior units.
I would disagree with that because one thing I pointed out is that I don't think those Evas had AT fields. We learned later they did, but maybe they just couldn't use them at that time.
We learned that they did?
Yeah, because they generated 9 AT fields to form the Tree of Life. Then they reversed them.
Oh, that's what those were AT fields?
Yes.
I mean, I knew that there were reverse AT fields because Fuyutsuki literally says anti-AT fields?
Right, and they needed 9 of them.
But they didn't have actual AT fields, right? Because if the AT field is supposed to represent your heart or like the barrier to your heart or something like that, then why would they have AT fields?
I guess they don't. You're right.
They're kind of like the antithesis of an Evangelion. They don't have. I'm assuming that they don't have pilots. They don't have souls. They probably have some synthetic souls. Maybe like Rei is kind of a synthetic soul.
You can see when they're deployed that something like moves into them and then that hatch closes. Something that looks like
it's probably an entry plug,
a dummy plug. Of
right? Yes,
sort.
Yes, dummy plug. So, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, you think that everyone?
Wait, how many members of SEAL were there?
12, and there were 12 Evangelions as well. Wait, that's not right. There were 9 synthetic ones.
You think it's possible those were the members of SEAL?
That they were piloting the Evas?
No, they weren't. That's pretty obvious.
I had never thought of that. I don't think that they were. I wonder what the deal it was with SEAL exactly. Because when they first show up in the show, well, that's the show. You know what? Never mind. We're trying to talk about the movies. So you thought that everyone else came back.
I'm going to change my answer on that based on like that's what I originally thought, but now that I think about it a little more, like I said, it takes me time to process everything.
Yeah. I don't blame you. This is a confounding film.
I remembered that line of dialogue where it says everyone has to make that choice. So
who says that? EoE probably at the end to Fuyutsuki?
I think either EoE says that or Rei says it at some point when they're just like the whole Rei is falling down back to Earth and...
Well, no, Lilith is falling back down to Earth.
Well, it looks like Rei. That's why I say that.
But Rei and Shinji are talking...
Someone
in the Sea of LCL.
Right.
That's when she's that's like the Dumbledore and Harry Potter scene where he's explaining to Harry where he is, you know, in limbo or in the afterlife or what have you.
Someone says at some point that everyone has to make that choice.
Right.
And so I think now my thought is that only people who made that conscious choice after Shinji made his, which allowed everyone else to make theirs, essentially.
Yeah, I think what you're expressing right now, I think that's the prevailing opinion about the end game. You know, the end of the world that we see is that people have to make the decision to come out of instrumentality
and to live in uncertainty.
Yes,
I guess
exactly. But would you still say that it's possible that other people have done it elsewhere and we just don't see them?
Yeah, I absolutely do think so.
I think most people who see this film assume that it's just Shinji and Asuka. They're the only two.
I would disagree with that.
Well, I mean, it's true that the camera can't go all over the world, right? We can't see everybody. But most people, the feel, like the tone of that scene is kind of like, this is the end of everything. We're the last, you know, it's like an Adam and Eve situation.
Right.
And they're the only two people on Earth. And the world has just gone completely to hell.
So they have to start the world over. Just those two.
Something like that. Yeah. And they being two like irreparably damaged people are going to be the new father and mother of mankind. Thus repeating a cycle where all of humanity is that they can't understand one another and they fear and hate one another because Shinji and Asuka are their parents and that's their heritage.
Right.
I think that's
no
how
different
most people,
from how the human race started anyways.
I think that's how, kind of. I think that's how most people view the ending. But it's interesting. Hello?
Hello?
after Shinji has that conversation with Rei and then with Kaworu. Okay, now I just realized something that I'm going to say real quick and hopefully not forget what else I was going to say. The Shinji and Asuka being Adam and Eve makes a lot of sense to me because the last thing Shinji sees before he comes out of the Sea of LCL, we see his head emerge from beneath the waves.
Right, like...
He sees Rei and Kaworu standing next to one another. And who are they, really?
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Lilith.
Right, so Adam and Eve, essentially.
Yeah. So then that's echoed, I think, by Shinji and Asuka having to repopulate the Earth, I guess. But what was I going to say? Damn it, I'm pretty sure I lost it.
No.
We see Shinji's head come up out of the LCL.
Right, like...
So maybe that's how everyone emerges from...
Maybe the rest of them are just going to take a while.
Yeah, that's possible, that they're the first two out. Maybe because they were close, like they were at the epicenter of instrumentality. And maybe other people are going to follow.
I don't know. There's no good answer.
I think there can be good answers, but you'll never know for sure.
I don't think there's a correct answer would be a better way to say it.
Yeah.
I think my theory is just as plausible as everyone else's.
That there are other people who have already escaped and are elsewhere on Earth.
If the pool covered the entire Earth, then it stands to reason that it would settle in more than just one spot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible that there will be more people, but I do think that the Adam and Eve thing just makes way too much sense in the light of the shot of Kaworu and Rei at the end, because Kaworu is Adam's soul,
right,
and Rei
is Lilith's body.
No, I think it's her soul,
right, and Gendo is
Rei has Adam's body fused to his
Gendo,
his hand. Yes, Gendo has Adam's body fused to his hand. I mean, we learned that the second impact was done on purpose in order to reduce, I think Misato says it was done in order to reduce
Adam's like size or strength or something.
Oh my God. Does that mean that Gendo was responsible for the second impact and that he like killed half the world's population? Oh my gosh. I think I had already come to that conclusion earlier, but maybe it just dawned on me for a second time. Right? I mean, if his plan was to reunite with his wife. Wait, no, his wife hadn't died at that point.
No, because
that doesn't make sense.
O1 hadn't been created.
She dies around 2004, I think. We could find out by looking at her grave. It says when she died.
Right.
And the second impact was the year 2000. But it's true that, I mean, Misato says that the second impact was triggered on purpose. And, oh no, but it must have been Seal that triggered it, right? Because Gendo asked Kaji to steal the Adam for him.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Whew. Done with your little brain blast there, Jimmy?
Yes, I am Goddard. No,
Arf.
you're the dog. You don't get to be Sheen. I mean, would you want to be Sheen or Carl? I think I'd rather be Goddard.
That's a good question. I think I'd like to be Sheen. I think his life's probably pretty cool.
He's one of the otaku that this movie is criticizing.
Ultra Lord.
Do we have anything else that we can? Oh, how about the fact that Misato kisses Shinji?
It's like
it's pretty strange.
That's your first. That's a real adult kiss. We'll continue it when you get back.
Yeah. Obviously, hinting at the fact that they would have sex.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty obvious.
And that was.
I think she was just trying to motivate him, like to do what what he had to do.
I think I agree. Like, because she was like pinning him to the chain link back of that cage that would take him down to where Unit 01 was.
Right. I think she was just waiting for the elevator to get there.
Yeah, I guess so. No, but didn't she hit a button to send it down?
Well, you'd have to, if the elevator's all the way down, you hit the button, wait for it to come up, then you hit a button to open the cage. Then it closes and goes back down.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I think it's true that she was just trying to motivate him in whatever way she could. But I think it also speaks to her character that her idea of how to motivate him would involve sexuality. Because
it worked the first time.
What first time is that?
Getting him to even show up.
The photograph. Yeah, that's a good call. I mean, that's something else that clues you into that fact about her character really early, before Eva starts really hitting its characters hard. In Instrumentality, in this movie, we see that Shinji witnesses her sex with Kaji.
Isn't that also in
that's in the
TV version?
Yeah, but the TV version goes way more in depth about it. You know how everyone's in the TV version, different characters take turns sitting in that chair, right, kind of being examined by the other characters, like questioned.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of the characters, maybe Asuka, accuses Misato of wanting to show that to Shinji. Like, she wants Shinji to see it.
To be like, look what you're missing, or something like that?
Kind of, yeah. That Misato's just really dirty, and she wants to like reveal herself to Shinji that way. So, I mean, I agree. I think that's part of Misato's character, and that's like one of the reasons that she was unable to care for Shinji as a mother, is because she can't have a relationship like that with men. She's very...
Yeah, but she's
really like sexually minded, I guess.
I suppose. Or, abandoned by father, a bunch of other...
Right, so every relationship that she has with a man after that is her trying to...
replace the void left by a lack of a parent.
Right, and she does that via sex, because there's a lot of talk also in both the TV series and this one about how it's a way to
force heart-to-heart intimacy.
Yeah, it's a way to create intimacy in a physical way. So it staves off like isolation and loneliness, and it kind of makes you feel alive and connected to people. So I do get the sense. I mean, this is something actually in the TV series that we didn't talk about. Do you remember a scene where Misato comes in, like Shinji's super depressed? This is real late in the game. She comes into his room and she says, "This is all I know how to do for you." And she puts her hand over top of his. Do you remember that at all?
I think so. Yeah, because she's like she's like only half clothed or something like that when she's like standing in the doorway.
No, that was really early on in the show, after he pilots the robot for the first time.
I could swear that happens more than once.
Maybe. But the really like memorable scene of her, I think, in just a towel. I guess she's come out of the shower and she's standing in the doorway and she says, "You did something really admirable today," as he's like lying there on the bed in terror at having piloted the Eva for the first time.
Right.
To me, that scene is when you really know that Eva's going to be fucked up. Like, she's saying, "Good job, you really piloted that robot well," and Shinji is like, he's not wanting to look at her. He probably just wants to sink into the earth and die.
Shut down. Yeah.
So I don't remember. I think she was normally dressed. I mean, normally dressed for her is still pretty suggestive. But yeah, she's often wearing like a real tight skirt, only hitting the halfway point of her thighs. But she comes into Shinji's room and she like puts her hand over his and says, "This is the only thing I know how to do for you." And he pulls his hand back and says, "Just stop it." And then she gets up and leaves. That was something we didn't talk about in the...
No, I don't remember discussing that.
Yeah, to me, that scene's the strongest proof, I guess, that she...
That's the only way she knows how to care for men,
I guess, or people.
Or how to the only way for her to emotionally comfort them is to physically comfort them.
Yeah,
because that's what she equates it in her mind.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's really sad. I think Misato she's my favorite. She's not the most tragic character. Like, there's no way. It has to be Shinji or maybe Asuka. It could even be Rei, honestly, because she's like an artificial soul. From what I understand about who she is, she's a part of Lilith, created with a human form. So she's kind of like an artificial soul of Lilith's, who is constantly questioning her own existence. And we know from one of her little moments in the TV show where she's talking about like nature and do you know what I'm talking about? No. Episode 14, I think, is when it happens.
It's been a while since we hit that.
Okay, yeah,
because we haven't been doing too many episodes.
That's true.
A week, so it's been couple months.
She talks about like having wanted to die, and just like wanting to stop existing.
Is that when she's like they're on an overlook and she's with Asuka after they had fought something?
No, that's pretty early on. I think that's the episode where they use all of Japan's power to shoot that sniper rifle.
Right.
That's when she asks Asuka, "Why do you pilot the Eva?"
Okay.
That's when that question is still being thrown around a lot. Why do you pilot the Eva? It's like it's a stand-in, I think, for why
what is your purpose?
Yeah,
for living?
Why are you alive? Or who are you really?
Why do you get out of bed every morning?
I mean, it's depending on who you are and how you relate to the characters. It's possible that Rei might be the most tragic because she's a soul without a purpose.
Well, her purpose because she was created by Gendo, was entirely selfish. Her entire purpose was used by Gendo in order to try to get to his wife after she had been killed.
Yeah, so I definitely misspoke. It's not as though Rei had no purpose. It's that she was a tool.
Right.
So she had no purpose of her own, I suppose.
But she found one.
Yeah.
Eventually. And it was Shinji.
Wait a minute.
I was going to say Akari.
No, wait. Hold on. Rei isn't just Lilith. She's Shinji's mom. She's EoE.
Rei is EoE?
Yeah, because remember all the stuff about Shinji equating Rei with his mom in his head? Remember that scene where she's like mopping the floor or something and he says you really look like a mother when you did that?
Right.
And they're even
wouldn't the progenitor of humankind, who's called Lilith, which is a female name, also be nurturing and caring?
Yeah, that's true. But I also feel as though there were some scenes where Shinji like literally like there are a couple scenes where he contacts the soul inside of Eva 01. And whenever I say contacts the soul, I always make this motion with my hands. I just realized that. That's probably some like super symbolic thing. Some Freudian thing.
Right.
When there are a bunch of scenes, maybe just two, where Shinji contacts the soul of his mother. I just went to do it again. But I stopped myself. And I'm pretty sure that Rei just shows up in one of them. In the place of his mother. I feel maybe
that's just him equating two nurturing women.
No, you know what? I think maybe the deal is that she has Lilith's soul, but uses DNA from EoE.
That's possible.
Like to shape her human form. That's my guess.
I don't know.
Because we know EoE's soul can't be in Rei because EoE's soul is in Eva 01.
Right.
Oh boy. This is okay. We're almost to a minute and 30. You think that's a good place to call it, or let's talk for a little.
Let's see which
longer.
Is shorter, the movie in question or the podcast talking about the movie in question.
We've already passed a minute and 26, which I think is how long the movie is with credits.
Right, it's about a minute 20 or minute 21.
Let's talk for a little longer. So how do you like this movie in comparison to TV ending 25 and 26?
I think this is what the TV ending was intended to be, because it's about 4 episodes long, 4 episodes runtime.
Yeah, but it only replaces 2 episodes.
Right. I think he wanted more time.
Who, Anno?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we keep saying Anno, but I mean, it was more, he couldn't have done all this by himself.
Right.
He created it. I'm sure he was largely responsible for the direction the story took and its underlying themes. But I think the whole team, a lot of people worked on it.
Right. The whole team wanted to give it a better ending than what they had either time or money for, possibly. Yeah. And so I think if you're going to watch Eva, don't watch 25 and 26 and just watch this instead. Maybe a better way to do it.
I think there are a lot of people. We probably talked about this in episode 13 when we talked about the last 4 episodes of Evangelion TV.
Right.
I think now that Ava's older and a lot of people are coming to it for the first time, they're going online and reading like, what's the correct way to watch it? People make those sorts of guides.
Yeah, like the correct way to. Some people have a theory where the correct way to watch Cowboy Bebop is to go 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I've never heard of that, and I don't think that's right.
It's where you start with Spike's backstory and then you start it, so that it actually kind of introduces you to a character rather than just throwing you into it.
Oh, I see. No, yeah. I don't. I mean, I can see why people would say that.
I've heard that from people. Yeah, but
it's a similar thing.
Yeah, it's the same concept.
So I think a lot of people are coming to Eva and are just skipping 25 and 26 TV. So it kind of makes sense to just go straight to this because it's, like we've been saying, kind of quote unquote the true ending. But I don't think that 25 and 26 TV are great episodes. They're not very interesting visually. Well, they are in some spots maybe, but I like them because they're a part of Eva. The way that they examine each of the characters instead of it being just Shinji's story is interesting to me.
Even though it's mostly just Shinji's story. The whole last episode is just Shinji.
You mean 26?
Yeah, 26.
I don't know about that. Because it's mostly him.
Anno pulls it. Anyway, here's Shinji's story.
Yeah, I mean, literally on screen it says we don't have time to show you everything. Here's what happened in Instrumentality for Shinji. But still, I mean, 25 has a lot of stuff involving other characters, particularly Asuka and Misato. I think there's a little bit of Rei in there.
If we take 25 and 26, and especially the end of 26, that last scene where everyone's come through and essentially have escaped or finished their journey in Instrumentality, I think we could also take away... No, that can't be right, though, because EoE's there.
Yeah, I think that the end of TV Evangelion, everyone congratulating Shinji, is just a way of like the show demonstrating that he came up with the correct answer, in rejecting it. That he, in choosing to embrace other people for all their, bless you, in choosing to embrace other people and living separately from them and having to deal with all the negative emotions that can cause, right. He made the right choice.
But that means that everyone else made the right choice as well.
No, I think it's just totally symbolic that they're all there applauding him and saying congratulations.
Yeah, because I was going to say...
But you know what? Maybe in that version we're actually... it's up for debate, really. I mean, right? It's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
So,
because it's possible, you could take, well, if all of these people escaped Instrumentality, are they going to rise out of the sea or whatever?
Yeah. No, I think they're just clapping because he did a good
Also, who
thing.
bandaged Asuka?
What do you mean?
When Asuka's on the shore at the end of the show, she's got bandages over her eye, her whole arm. They're covered in bandages. Who did that?
Was she not already bandaged? Okay, the eye patch definitely. Was it an eye patch or was it bandages?
It was definitely...
I just watched this an hour and a half ago.
It was like that piece of cloth with like 2 pieces of tape over it that's on every wound in anime.
Right. Especially the older stuff.
Yeah. And then her arm is just wrapped up.
Yeah, I was trying to consider how her arm could have been wrapped up. Maybe it was like that already because she was in the hospital.
No, because we saw her in the hospital and she had nothing on.
Right, it was just a gown. I guess she didn't have her arm wrapped up. I don't think. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, maybe the ending of TV or the end of Evangelion, the movie version, the ending is also supposed to be symbolic or metaphorical. Although because
her wounds that were directly inflicted by her fight were patched, and there was obviously no time for that to happen.
Yeah,
and if her body had dissolved, the bandages would have floated away.
Yeah.
So it's possible either someone did it because she couldn't have done it to herself.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just the kind of situation where you're not supposed to think too hard about it. I don't know.
But this whole show is trying to make you think like really hard about everything. So how could you not look into that as well?
Yeah, that's true. Let's Google that after this. Why does Asuka have bandages?
Let's see if anybody else has any crackpot theories.
I'm sure they do. Yeah. So it sounds like you like this better than the TV version.
I think one of the reasons is because it's.
I mean, I do too, but I think there's some merit in 25 and 26.
Well, because I think they're supposed to be companion pieces almost.
Oh, that I don't agree with. I mean, I think 25 and 26 are the product of a studio that was out of time and out of money. So I don't think they were intended as companion pieces. I think this is trying to, replace the end of Evangelion.
Right.
But if you don't watch 25 and 26, you miss out on a lot of cool character stuff in 25 about Misato, Asuka, and Rei.
Which is why...
And also about that like twist. Shinji wakes up and you think it was all a dream, and Asuka's his childhood friend, and they go to school, and Misato's the teacher.
Yeah.
I honestly love that. I thought it was so funny. It makes me laugh thinking about it. So you miss that if you never watch those episodes. So I mean, yeah, I'm sure you can get 99% of the Eva experience skipping them, but I wouldn't recommend it. So how do you revised thoughts on Evangelion as a franchise, as a series, as a story in light of what you saw today?
It's definitely ambitious, and its writing was at least intended to be, thought provoking and to ask more questions than it solves. And I think. The reason for its writing, you talked a lot about how Anno had been like horribly depressed before he wrote it.
Yeah, before, yes.
And it can almost be seen as a product of that sort of, or it can almost be seen as a product of that mental state based on like how the characters start somewhat seemingly normal, and then it just slowly reveals like the inner workings and how broken everybody is inside, no matter what front they put up.
Yeah, they never were normal. We just didn't know them well enough.
Right. That's what I said.
Right.
Poorly, but still. And I think it does a good job trying to portray that.
Sure. How about the way that your thoughts have changed about the series, if any, in light of this film in particular? Like, what changed about it for you? Or is it still
I
the
don't
same?
know if my thoughts overall about it changed drastically. Or at least not a series as a whole. I wouldn't think that, the last two episodes. I think the ending is stronger now, but I thought the show as a whole was really strong, before that, before the ending. And I think adding a strong ending on the end just kind of solidifies it as, a solid piece, and it, deserves the legendary tier that it has held for so long.
The legendary tier.
Those S-tier anime.
Yeah, I guess this is one. I mean, I don't really think there are S-tier anime. I don't think there's S-tier anything. But
nothing is great. Everything is terrible.
This show, if you're interested in psychological anime, if you're interested in mecha, if you're interested in the history of anime maybe, and you want to experience one of its like watershed moments,
I think it's a good...
It's worth watching.
It's worth watching for various reasons. You can watch the show for one of any number of reasons and come out thinking this is a great show.
You can even watch it for the girls, as I think millions of people probably have.
There are, well, nowadays at least, there are thousands more shows that you could watch for that would,
I guess, yeah,
tickle your fancy a lot more.
Yeah, your fancy.
Get it?
Yeah,
Thanks, Shinji.
I like the movie. It's good. Solid movie. Would recommend.
To anyone who's seen Eva but hasn't seen it before.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Eva, don't watch it, because it's not going to make a lick of sense.
Yep. It's a good film, and it's good franchise. I mean, up to this point, the rebuilds are pretty contentious, but I don't think we're going to get into those anytime soon.
If they ever finish, we'll watch them. Maybe.
I mean, yeah. All right.
I think that's about the extent of what we can cover.
Yeah.
Without taking another 6 years.
Is it even fair to say that we covered it? I think we were just grappling with the movie this whole time.
I think this is just a good way for us to talk about it and think about it out loud.
Yeah. That's what the podcast is, man.
Just thinking out loud. And if people want to hear us think out loud, then more power to you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
A NERV-inspired mass extinction.
That is true.
Episode 16.
All right.
That's a wrap.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.